Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be distributed and recorded by Simeon Moro EU and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I will now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Tonight, our featured guest is Caio Amon, a composer and film director. Also joining us is Professor Lino Rivera of St. Mary's College of California. Caio, welcome.
Thank you very much, Simeon. I'm very glad to be here. This is the second time I joined the show, so I hope I can bring something new. And for the ones who don't know, Simeon and I went to the music conservatory together. So this is a long-term collaboration. And Simeon has premiered 2 of my pieces back there in the past. So yeah, I'm very glad to be here with you all.
Caio, so tell us a little bit about where you come from, what you do, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, so I'm from Brazil. I'm actually here in Brazil now, the very south of Brazil, kind of the coldest place in Brazil you can be, very close to Argentina. So I have a sort of a hybrid education and interest. On one side, my education went to heavily on music, and I went to conservatory, and before that I was very active playing popular Brazilian music. So my interest in music is not restricted to the classical realm. I think and later on I started working with soundtracks and as a scoring composer. So I have one side of me is a musical me, and the other one connects to film. I rather not use the word film, maybe. I think film, at least in my language, in Portuguese, film has to do with the films that end up in the movie theater. And I think nowadays the realm of video and audio visual, it's much broader. So I think I fit in this broader sense of a film director. And my interest is connecting image and video with music, and the ways they can interact to provide a richer and deeper experience. So my life is a little bit looking at music from a film point of view, and looking to images from a music point of view. So I'm always in this movement. So yeah, lately I've been busy scoring for films and artistic projects in general. And at the same time, I have this company called Heroica, an homage to Beethoven. But it's a company that does visual and graphic content, communication content for the arts and culture. So yeah, so I think I deal daily with not only with musical and video issues, but with the graphic ones. For me, it's all they all share common things, common processes. So I'm interested in the collaboration among the arts, for sure.
So Caio, tell us a little bit about your day. What's it like? You get up and have breakfast, and then what do you do exactly?
Oh man, the thing is that I had not a terrible idea, but to start a master degree this year, So on top of all these activities, now I'm a master student. So this morning I had lessons. I had a class, so I was doing my master project. Now in the afternoon, I'll be filming. I will be directing the filming of a performance, of a visual artist performance. And at night I'll compose. I have to compose this project for that is already close to the deadline. So yeah, this is my day today, Simeon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So can you tell us, let's get into this music for film, this word film that you don't like. Tell us a little bit about your latest project. Or should we take a look right away at the trailer?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's take a look.
O que tu acha que ela é?
Não sei. Calma, calma, mãe, eu tô bem. Eu tô com um cara. Eu conheci ele ontem.
Acha que vai passar logo?
Quando passar, a gente pode fazer uma coisa só nós duas. Acampar.
Se a gente ficar trancado aqui muitos anos, tu vai querer ter um filho?
Não, nunca quis.
When I was a child, Mama would tell me why bother so. La vida es la vida, simple as it may be. Life is just life.
Obrigado pela minha casa. Obrigado.
Estava acostumada a trabalhar com 90 crianças por dia. De 90 crianças pra ninguém.
Não aguento mais.
Tu tem que aceitar, não.
Tá uma tortura.
Tu gosta da Rafa?
Gosto.
So
All
can you
right.
tell us a little bit about this dramatic film?
Yeah, well, it's a very curious story. The film is about this pink cloud that invades the whole country of Brazil, and it instantly kills people that has contact with it. So people are locked in their apartments or whatever they happen to be when the clouds arrived. And this story was written before the pandemics. And what happened is, I think is one of the first movies that reached the festivals dealing with this situation. So it got a lot of attention this year. It premiered in the Sundance Film Festival, in the competing, and now it's around in some other festivals. So it begins with this, with this curiosity, this kind of coincidence or synchronicity, Jung would say, right? But my interest in talking about it is because nowadays I don't see myself more as a film composer or composer for other things. I realized that it's always collaboration, and collaboration among artists. And because before starting to think about it, I would say, well, this is a collaboration with film, but I never met Mr. Film. There's no film to collaborate with. There's always another artist who might have a hybrid education or occupation. So my intent in bringing this project today is just to show some possibilities of collaboration. And this is a collaboration with the film director, but it goes a little bit beyond just making music for a scene. And so for this film, I'd like to bring some aspects of the process.
First, before we get into the details, we have a question or comment from Professor Lino Rivera of St.
All
Mary's.
right. Let the game begin.
Hello, Kayo. This just reminds me of my undergrad years way back in the Philippines, where one of my professors is actually a film composer. And so I am just curious. I think you're about to say something about this. You know, how do you compose? I mean, from my standpoint, from what I observed with him, he would watch the film and then he would compose music that he thinks is appropriate for the movie. Now you're talking about some collaboration. What do you exactly mean by that? That, you know, does the film director have something to say with what the music you're composing is? How does that work?
Yeah, I think there are levels of collaboration. Each project brings more or less freedom for me as a composer. This is an example of moderate freedom, because no matter what I do or what I present as timbres or instruments or musical ideas, in the end of the day, I have to match this music to the scene, because in the case of this film, I had a long conversation with the director before the shooting, long before the shooting, and I composed one song, the beginning of a song that would be sang on the set. But so before the shooting, we had this conversation, talking about feeling, talking about how music could collaborate with the film. Especially because in this film, there's the main character is a cloud. So it's very important. It has to have a musical persona, but it doesn't have a voice. You know, how do you know, what sound does a cloud make? You know, when it's not raining. When it's raining, we know, but in the case it's not. So so the conversation went into devising how we could achieve that. And I remember in this conversation, what popped up and remained in the movie is that we used, of course, woodwind instruments to kind of depict the cloud, but I didn't want it to be melodies. You know, it's for both of us. We understood that melodies wouldn't fit, so I decided to use a lot of extended techniques and sort of clouds of sounds. You know, a lot of woodwind instruments playing almost random material, because for me this is how a cloud sounds. You know, it's kind of this mass moving and finding shape. But there is a motif in the flutes playing a flutter tongue, is when flutes play like. No, so you can hear, and this is the most musical maybe aspect of the voice of the cloud. So this is an example, you know, of the sort of collaboration that happens in the beginning of a soundtrack, for example, because those decisions or that conversation really put a restraint in how I would go on. So I knew that after that conversation, I wouldn't present a sort of a thematic, a melody, you know, for the. So this is a sort of a collaboration. Perhaps we could, Simeon, should I play? I just wanted to play the first theme, the theme of the cloud, so I can illustrate a little bit how how the result, absorb the elements of this conversation. So this is the first musical thing that happens in the film, and it pictures more or less the cloud reaching the city. Can you hear it? Yeah. Sunil hear the little motif of the cloud. This is the clouds appearing, showing up, growing. You can hear all the scattered notes, sort of. So this is the cloud. In the movie, the cloud is reaching the city now and attacking the first victim. Yeah, so Lino, so this is an example of how a first conversation, you know, kind of shaped maybe the more recurrent music in the movie, right? I don't know if it answers a bit your question, but there's another example in this film which is a lot more fun, which illustrates another kind of collaboration. And the thing is, there's a moment in the film, a very special one, when this couple starts living a sort of a family life, and the director wanted to put some irony in it, and she decided to use that song, famous song, Que Sera Sera, from the 50s, you know, Doris Day. So a very ironic reference to the 50s and to the American way of life, maybe. And they were planning to use the original song, and of course they gave up when they were informed the figures to be paid for the copyright, for to clear. And this went until maybe the last week before the deadline for the soundtrack. So 1 week before my deadline, I have this phone call from the director. Look, Caio, we won't be using Que Sera Sera, so we need a song, you know, we need a Que Sera Sera song. And I said, whoa, and that's difficult because, you know, that's a famous song, you know. So this is another kind of collaboration, because in this case, I had to compose a song with lyrics, with everything, like 1 week before. So there's no turning back from this, right? I mean, I will compose one song and the director has to accept, because I won't have time to compose another one. So so then what happened is I had to compose really quick, and I wanted to share with you the sketches I record when I'm composing such a thing. I get my iPhone and I just sing with the guitar, and I have a few of the sketches that shows how the song builds up and turns out what it came to be. So let me show you the first sketch of me humming a sort of a melody, really trying to call for the muses, you know, and just like inspire me, please. So this is what I began humming. Let's see if you can hear. Can you hear? Now was the same. Now was the same. You leave alone. We always the same. But always know. Always the same. And now leave all the same. And now was the same. then I started repeating, trying to get that chorus. So a few hours after, I have this other sketch. Let's see. When I was a child, a long time ago, Mama would ask me why bother so. With small little things so complicated, she would lovely say, La vita è la vita. Okay, so it's getting, it has already a sort of a lyrics, right? So then I noticed that if I was, that the song like this would be too short. So I started to extend the musical phrases. Look what happened. There's an intro now. When I was a child, long time ago, when clouds fill the sky, Mama would ask me why bother so. I changed the key. It's really high now. So let me see. This is the last sketch. When I was a child, long time ago, clouds fill the sky, Mama will tell me why bother so. So now I lowered the tempo a little bit. So this is a little bit the process of composing this song, and now I'll show you how the song end up, which amounts to orchestration, to the choice of the singer and the full lyrics. So let me show you how the end result.
When I was a child, a long time ago, and clouds filled the sky, Mama would tell me why bother so.
I love you.
Small little things so complicated, happy or not, she would lovely sing. La vita è la vita, simple as it may be. Life is just life, la vita, and on and on. Time has gone by, love's got my heart. Will he come back? Is he the one? Can I let him go? In all of these moments so complicated, happy or not, I would often sing La vita è la vita, simple as it may be. And life is just life, it likes to go on and on and on indeed. Life is just life, la vita, and on indeed. Life is just life, la vita, and on indeed.
Oh yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So we got a lot of applause. So the title of that song is La Vita.
La Vita, yeah.
Okay.
And,
Apt title.
If I
yeah,
may,
exactly. I need to go. Huh?
Caio, if I may just ask, why is it that you chose to set it in English, except for the words La Vita? Why in English? The film is in Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Because-
not set it?
Because the reference was Que Sera Sera, which is a song in English that uses an expression in Portuguese, Que Sera Sera, or Spanish, but it's the same expression we have. So it was a song in English using a foreign expression as the chorus. So I figure I'll do the same, but my chorus will be an Italian expression, which I don't speak, and this is because in another song of mine, a friend wanted to he wanted to contribute, and I didn't like the contribution to the lyrics in this other song because he wanted to put something like "è la vita," you know. And when I had to compose this "Que sera sera" song, I remembered his expression, and I said, "Well, man, this is the same as "Que sera sera." It's just a very general expression, very redundant. La vita è la vita, you know. I mean, what does it mean? Nothing. Life is just life." So this is the point, because the director wanted a clear reference to Doris Day. You know, she wanted almost to sound as if this song was written in the 50s and was part of some other soundtrack. Yeah, that's the reason.
Fantastic. So are there any questions or comments at this point? Please feel free to write in the chat box or to just turn on your microphone. Caio and Lino are here to field your questions, hear your comments. So we have to move on, unfortunately. The first but I wanted to, before we do, quickly ask you, how did you get such a fantastic recording done if you had 1 week?
Well, the only thing that is recorded is her voice. All the other stuff is samples. So I just programmed the orchestration. I think I recorded the mandolin, but yeah, this is how you do it. You know, you just do it in samples in MIDI, and then you just fine tune it. And the singer was actually in Rio de Janeiro, so she recorded alone in this other studio. Just sent me the audio, the voice tracks, and I mixed it in, and this is how I did. Yeah.
Impressive, a one-man orchestra, fantastic. So, Caio, tell us a little bit about this going on to visual arts with music, music with visual arts. I have Seci Infitudinis, if I pronounce that wrong.
Yeah. Sure, and I think this goes on with the theme of collaboration, but now with a high degree of freedom. So maybe this is the project where I understood this whole topic of collaboration, because this project is called Sete Infinitudes, which translates into 7 infinitudes. So the idea is to create one track, 7 tracks based in 7 visual works of art. Some of them were performances, some of them were objects. So, but I could really freely be inspired by them. I had like no restraint at all. And what happened is that the curator of the project is a very interesting person. Actually, it's a couple, is Laura and Munir. They are actually a couple that is curating the project. And what happened is that we started this ritual of having conversations, but conversations that had nothing to do with music. And the challenge was how to translate the most strange topics into music inspiration. So one of the tracks I wanted to show you, it's called Anéis. It's a provisory name, but Anéis no Mar, which means like rings into the sea. And the visual work that inspires it is very unique. The work is both artists went to the sea. They took a boat, they went to the sea, and they threw to the bottom of the sea 3 gold rings, 3 real gold rings that are now in the bottom of the sea. And this is their work. So I had to create a music or a track based on it. And I actually kept a diary, a kind of a journal of our conversations here to keep track of it. And what happened is that references from their experience, my references, became intermingled in a very poetic way. So I think we worked with images. In this case, we started with a demo I had of a song, of a sort of a sketch I did a long time ago. That is a piano playing a very mysterious scale, sort of an arpeggio. I can show you. So this is the first thing I show them before any conversation. Let me show you this. at the time I called like still lake. So actually, this is sketch, right? Just a vibe. But I think I put some. The collaboration started this way. I showed them this sketch, and then we started talking, and the conversation and talking about the sea. We remember this Brazilian singer called Dorival Caymmi, which is a very important figure in Brazilian music, with a very low voice, and he would sing a lot about the sea. So his kind of poetry and his kind of voice came up. Let me show you a little bit of Dorival Caymmi. I'll check.
O mar, quando quebra na praia, é bonito, é bonito.
The kind of arpeggio he's doing in the guitar somehow reminds me of my own story.
Pescador quando sai nunca sabe se volta, nem sabe se fica.
And he's talking about the sea. So the conversation started intermingling this singer, his music, and the idea that here in the African religions here in Brazil, oh yeah, here it is. You should all listen. It's so beautiful. And so there in the African religions here in Brazil, there's a sort of an important figure. A spiritual figure that is called Iemanjá, and Iemanjá is the goddess of the sea. So this idea also came into the conversation, and we started with these elements to build a sort of a story, and we imagined that this Iemanjá, this goddess, as a sort of a siren that who sings, right, attracted this ambitious people that want to find the rings in the bottom of the sea. So Iemanjá sings to them and tells them about the ring. So they come to the sea and they drown, because of their ambition. And we started imagining also that besides this feminine figure, we could also have sort of a more aggressive aspect of the sea. Perhaps symbolized with Neptune. Neptune, this is how you say in English, the Greek god of the sea, right? With that initiates the storms, right? And so we imagine that in the middle of the story, Neptune would show up and see, I mean, who's here in the sea looking for the rings. And so we started a very crazy story, and after that, we imagine that Netuno leaves, and all these drawn people, ambitious people, they go back to the bottom of the sea. So my problem as a composer is that, oh, it's a wonderful story, but I mean, how do you put that into music, right? What do you do with that? And this is a bit what I am studying in my master's degree is what are the activity? How do you translate not musical things into musical things? And one thing I came across is that analogy and metaphor plays a big role in it. Metaphor is a more obvious word because art is full of metaphor, but analogy is a little bit different. Analogy is when you map elements from one system into the other because of the similarity in relationships. So the same way we we were describing the sea as having two aspects, one more seductive and one more aggressive in the figures of Iemanjá and in the figures of Neptune. These two elements I had to map into musical materials, right? So this is the way I proceeded the collaboration with these artists. We would create stories and I would see where does Iemanjá map into music. Sometimes the mapping was more obvious, sometimes the mapping was more abstract, but I wanted to show you some of what happened with this track. So I'll play and I'll comment a little bit to see, so you can see where all this conversation end up in the music. So this intro is based in that first sketch. So for me, we are in the bottom of the sea. And this is a chord progression I devised from a YouTube video teaching the diminished sixth scale. I think he's a very famous jazz pianist. And now we have this flute. For me, this flute is the voice of Iemanjá. This is the siren. And soon now we will hear the voices of the ambitious people who drawn into the sea. And now the voices are singing Umar, Umar, which are the exactly words of Dorival Caymmi in his song. And this is the moment where Neptune started hearing, well, there are people in my sea, I'll kick them out. So for me, this is waves. So I decided to develop the percussive material in waves.
Fantastic. Caio, because we don't have a lot of time, maybe we should move on to our next segment.
Sure, sure. Wonderful. So this is a small excerpt of this sort of very free collaboration based on conversations and ideas. Yeah.
Let's go on to composing for music for theater. This is
sure.
2068.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Caio, tell us about composing for this 2068.
Yeah, sure. Well, 2068 is a very peculiar theater play because it's a mask. All the actors wear masks that cover the whole face, so there's no dialogue, and the whole dramaturgy, the whole story is told with the body and with actions. So this leaves the whole sonic realm in my hands. So there's a lot of freedom, a lot of space, and in this case, this is the second theater play I score for this group. So it's the second time I face this challenge, and here I think it's a lot about characters. Yeah, this play is about this people who are trapped into a I don't know, sort of a basement or whatever. I don't know. It's sort of an apocalyptic situation where people are trapped in a very small square and they can't leave. So then they start imagining and having fantasies and dreams of what they would do if they could leave these places. So for each character dreams a different thing. And this dream is all we know about their inner life or their psychology. So in this case, music has a huge responsibility of getting the audience inside the character, or trying to tell everything the character can't because he won't be speaking. So my job here was to figure out how I could tell the story at the same time telling something about that character that wasn't obvious. So I think we could show one of the songs I developed. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Here. So one of the characters, the dream he lives is that he dresses up. He's a man, and the character is a man, and he dresses up as a woman. And this is his dream of freedom to be whoever he wants to be. And to get this feeling, I don't know why I remembered two references which I like very much. One of them is an artist called Benjamin Clementine, and in a point of one of his songs, he starts singing sort of an operatic thing. So he's a sort of a person who is not a classical singer trying to, I don't know, evoke maybe this thing. And then I remembered a version of In Trutina of Carmina Burana sang by Barbara Streisand, which I like very much because she's not singing with the bel canto voice. She's singing with a very plain and natural voice. So it is a reference, exactly the opposite, is someone who is singing an opera, but not with the right voice. I'll play it a little bit to you. I really love this version. That should be. Such a shame to stop this music. You know, I get like all goosebumps. I don't know how you feel. The problem with working with good references is that you feel almost ashamed of trying to compose something in that direction. Well, but then I decided to mix both references, and I composed a sort of a bel canto aria in Italian now this time, and so I worked out lyrics. And the lyrics pretty much tell how pure, how beautiful, how brave this character feels he is of just trying to do and be whatever he wants to do and be. In this case, is a genre, gender issue. So I have some sketches of me singing preliminary version. I'm trying to get something out of those references. Benjamin Clementine singing with that voice, and Christina with Barbara Streisand. So I'm trying to get what I play some chords, and then I try to sing, try to get how. So I'm a little bit embarrassed, but this is part of the process. So let me show you how the track ended up. I'll just play a little bit. And of course, then we hired a professional soprano who did an amazing job. Her name is Cynthia de los Santos. Oh yeah, and then I devised this intro. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell the most important part. After composing, I realized that because this character was a man wanting to be or do things which are traditionally connected with women or something that he cannot do, I decided to construct a synthetic voice. So I hired a soprano and a tenor, and at a point in the song, I changed the voice, trying to make them look continuous, as if the person was a kind of a sort of a castrati that could reach very high notes and very low notes. So this is what I did with the song. So this is an intro where they both sing, but I'll skip the intro. You can listen. Simeon will show where all this music is in Spotify and YouTube. So I'll skip for the change of voices. I instructed the tenor not to sing with a bel canto voice, as if this was the real, the normal voice, the speaking voice of the character.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Let's move on to music, filming for music.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so filming for music, there it is.
So Kai, tell us about this. So you're in charge of the film for this. So
exactly, yeah. In this case, this is not my music. I mean, if it was, I would be rich. This is Bach music. If I could compose like that, oh my God. Okay, but this is Bach. And this is a project called Bach Brazil. and it's a project where I actually direct the filming part of it. So I develop my ideas on how to film a performance, and I think it has a lot to do with how to enhance the way we listen to. Because one thing I discovered editing and is the power that image has to make you listen to things that you perhaps you would miss. In this case, we are listening to Trio Sonata by Bach, which is a very contrapuntal music. So there are three voices, very independent voices going all the time. And in a lot of places that there are wonderful conversations or dialogues among the voices. So the way I approached filming has to do with how image can help you see where the dialogue is, or at least how image can help you see what I hear in that music, right? I think this is a point. There are several ways to listen to this music. So I invite you all to visit the website. It's called Bach Brazil, but with S, Brazil. You can register in the site, sign up just with your email. And there's a new concert every month that we film, we edit. The sound quality is very good. The performers are specialists in Baroque music. And then you can catch up with a little bit with my work in this realm of filming music. So the next one is the orchestral Bach suites. Yeah. Oh yeah. You can register. Yeah, that it is. Then you just fill this form, and then you'll get the schedule and the links for the premieres every month. So yeah, I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel that when you see filmed music, do you hear something different than you would? I would be interested in how people experience this.
And Kai, you told me before that you felt you were kind of more intrusive when you were filming music as opposed to other film directors. I imagine that you still had the score with you and you were looking and you said, okay, the flute is playing here, a melody, so film the flute. Is that how you made your decisions? What do you mean by intrusive?
Yeah, I mean that perhaps when we watch a video of an orchestra playing, especially if it's broadcast in TV or national TV, I feel that the edit rhythm is a slow one. I mean, it's like the image doesn't want to interfere with your listening. Perhaps if there's a huge clarinet solo, the editor will cut to the clarinet. But probably if there's a quick dialogue among different instruments, perhaps the editing won't be following that too closely, and I think this lives up to you what you want to listen, right? And what I intend with this Bach Brazil thing is to share maybe the way I am listening that music, at the cost that the editing is constantly suggesting you what you should be hearing. If I cut to the double bass, I mean, sure, you start listening to the double bass a little bit louder. This is how I feel. So if I cut to the flute, you pay attention to the flute. So intrusive in this way, I kind of try to share the way I am listening. So it has cons and pros, right? I mean, perhaps you don't agree with me that the double bass is the most important part in that moment. So this is what I meant.
And now let's take a look at one more video. And this is only piano, so we have probably a different problem here.
Exactly. Yeah,
Fantastic.
well, yeah, this is another way. I mean, the way I decided to film this piece is that I decided to highlight the change of registers. So I just like cut the piano into 3 registers, and I decide where to go from there. So it's a way to maybe to share a possibility on how to listen to this piece, because you can follow the melodies or the scales, but you can also hear it as a sort of exploring the registers of the piano. So I chose this example because this is a very radical one, that I just keep to this perspective, and what I'm trying to say is, let's hear the exploration of the register in this piece. So yeah, I don't know. I think it is worth it, because the music is already there. I mean, if you want to listen just to the music, right? But I think the video, when you film music, it has to enrich. It has to tell something more than just show someone playing, which is already wonderful. But I think it can do more sometimes.
Fantastic. Professor Lino Rivera, I believe, has a question or comment. Lino?
Yes, both. Kayo, I totally agree with you, because, you know, I show a lot of YouTube videos to my students, and, you know, especially when there's an orchestra, and you just really need to know the video editor, the film producer, director should know which part of the orchestra, what instruments are playing. And really, I really agree with you. It is an art in itself to do filming for music. My question is, with regards to your composition, when is the point wherein you say, you know, this is it, I am fully satisfied with it? Do you have any alternative versions to your compositions? So those are my questions.
I think when I'm composing for other projects, or the director's final word, when they're satisfied, I am satisfied, because otherwise it never ends. So in collaboration, this is one criteria. But yeah, I think I have versions of some of my music. Maybe the music that I feel is more, it has more authorship, maybe. Actually, now I'm organizing a concert, a live kind of a performance with a pianist, with no audience, that will be recorded. But it's a situation in which this pianist will play music I wrote for film or for theater. So I'm having to rethink the instrumentation of this music and how to make that work on stage or as absolute music, you know, let's put it like pure music. So this is a way to rethink. So in this sense, the music is not complete, no, not ready. And at least in this situation, I will have alternative versions of this music. But I think in regard to other projects, it's a collaborative deadline. You know, it's a venture that has to end. I think for composition that you're just going to put in your drawer, you can work for 20 years, maybe, you know, like Thomas Mann with the Magic Mountain. I don't know, but in a film, and I don't want these producers calling me every week, so I just want this. No, I love my collaborators. They're wonderful.
Caio, so tell us, we're out of time. Last question: what's the future look like to you? What's coming up? What are you aspiring to do? What are your next projects?
Sure. Well, as I told you in the beginning, I'm very interested in thinking about collaboration, and because of this master degree, and to research a little bit, because I realized, reading about collaboration, I realized that I used to think I was a less kind of composer because I wasn't composing string quartets, or I wasn't just waking up in the morning and, oh, I want to write a symphony. I noticed that my whole career was based on writing music for projects, with projects, collaborating. But maybe deep in myself, I felt that this was to be less of a composer. I was less of a musician, and now I'm reading very interesting articles and books on creative practice or collaboration. There's one really good by Nicholas Cook, which is a very renowned musicologist. And what I am discovering is that all music is collaborative. I mean, some collaborations just happened behind closed doors, but my collaborations happened in open doors. And so I'm starting more to enjoy, and the future is actually more collaboration. You see, now I'm beginning to think to initiate my own projects where I invite other artists to influence the way I compose. So one thing is to collaborate with the film director to make music for a film, but why can't a composer put together a film director, a dancer, a visual artist to brainstorm and in the end compose pure music? So I'm interested in this kind of collaboration to see how other arts can influence my work.
Wonderful. So very inspiring. You remind me of our show with Sarah Roversi and Father Andrea Ciucci. Sarah Roversi of the Future Food Institute is trying to prove to people the social aspect of eating and how when you sit together at a table, this is really actually a social event. It's not so much an individual event. It's very interactive. And I take it that you're enjoying understanding music as a social phenomenon as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
Very well put.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Caio Mon, for showing us all of your drafts as well as your final copies. It's not often that we get to hear so many unfinished or proto works and get to go inside your workshop. So thank you so much for showing us all of those corners.
Thank you for inviting me once more, and thank you for the presence of all you here. Some faces I recognize from the other show, like Jerome, I remember. Look, David is there. Yeah, feel free to invite me more, and yeah, I'm very happy for the work you're doing. Very interesting to have. Yeah.
Thank you, with pleasure. So let's see how we can stay in touch with Caio Mon. We have his Spotify here, which I will send you all the link to in a minute. And there are the Pink Cloud, La Vita, Life is Just Life, that we heard. Fantastic. So we can hear your music, and people just need to sign up for Spotify. Is that right, Caio?
Yeah, but all this music is on YouTube also.
Okay, fantastic. And then we have another page. We have Instagram here. Caio.Amon. There it is. So again, the Pink Cloud. Caio receiving his awards. Fantastic. Wonderful. And then we have one last page, I believe, here. Let me see here. Then his website, caioamon.com. There it is. So Caio, people can reach out to you through your website?
Sure. You can contact me. I'd be very happy to exchange.
There it is. So Caio at caioamon.com. I'll put that in the website too. I'll put that in the chat room. There it is. Fantastic. So let's take a look at what's coming up next week. We have the Broadway Station Jazz Band. Before going on tour, Lyon's Broadway Station Jazz Band will make a special appearance on our show. We will discuss how the band selects songs, which range from classic opera to pop music theater, all while including French chansons, rehearses them, and weaves them into a touching human act of hope and resilience. Come welcome the group's lead singer and artistic directress, Stephanie Morales, whom I believe we have the pleasure of having here tonight, and pianist Neto Mantovani. So that's next week, the Broadway Station Jazz Band. Hi, Stephanie. Wonderful. So thank you again to Caio Mon. Thank you to Professor Lino Rivera. Thanks to Maurice Hissink for his support of the show. And most of all, thanks to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From Porto Alegre, Brazil, from Vienna, Austria, and from the Bay Area, California. Goodbye. See you next Wednesday.